Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Hey everybody, welcome back. You know where you are. You're home. The island of misfit toys. This is the Maverick News Channel. Welcome everyone, Maverick family, and new viewers from all over the world. Tonight we'll talk about Vladimir Zelensky in Munich begging for more weapons. We'll tell you about Avdiivka. Ukraine has lost Avdiivka. Russia has taken that territory. We'll talk about crazy stuff on airplanes. We'll talk about Alexei Navalny and his irregular death. We'll talk about somebody trying to open an airplane door mid-flight. And we'll talk about Nazis in Nashville. All that and more coming up right here on the Maverick News Channel. Don't go away.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are Maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
The world is watching, and the world is watching because the world is a mess. Conflict, it seems, everywhere. Tonight, kicking things off, and I didn't mention this in the opener, but a violent riot has erupted on the streets of The Hague. Migrants, Eritrean migrants mostly, it appears, have attacked police there with bricks, and they've also torched cop cars. Dozens of rioters have been filmed surrounding the Opera Conference Hall in the Netherlands. Multiple police vans were driving by the scene, and as I say, a number of police vehicles torched. We do have some video coming out of there, showing a fight breaking up between two groups of Eritreans. We've seen that even here in Canada now. This violence seems to be something they bring with them when they leave their home country and emigrate to new places. It is a mess. As I say, here are some photos tonight, as you can see. Torched vehicles. Literally, the world is on fire. A bus torched. Another car torched. They can all be replaced. Mass production items, windows smashed. Businesses, firefighters putting the flames out. Cops in riot gear. These protests are spreading all over the world, it seems. At least all over the West, which I think is interesting. We're not seeing these kinds of riots in, say, Russia. If they are having disruptions like this, I'm not hearing about it. Not at all. We have some video here now of what's been going on. Here it is. Oh, hang on. Yeah, okay. As you can see, fires in the streets in The Hague. It makes you wonder, makes me wonder, what it is that's really behind all of this. What is it that has all of these things happening at the same time, country after country after country? Is it just the economic or social conditions, or is there something else that's fueling this, acting as a catalyst, sparking this kind of response from the public? Is there some coordination? Is it happening organically? I can't imagine that all of these protests are just happening on their own. Somebody has to be planning these things, promoting them or something to get all these people to come out or to get a message out to them all, wouldn't you think? In such a coordinated way. But here's this, here are the Eritreans, and they're fighting, and they've got the sticks out again. We've seen exactly that same kind of behavior here in Canada. Water cannons in it. So I thought I'd lead with that, just because it is it's the newest, freshest riot. I guess it's the riot of the day, or the demonstration, or, depends on your political persuasion, I suppose, whether it's a riot or a protest. Opinions vary. Alexei Navalny, his family, wants his body to come home, but tonight it isn't even clear where the remains of the 47-year-old politician might be. He, of course, was the leader of the main opposition party in Russia, and he suddenly fell ill and then died in a Russian prison way up in an isolated Arctic area. He disappeared in the prison system for a while and then resurfaced, and then was seen earlier this week alive and well during a court appearance, and then the very next day, Russian authorities say he suddenly fell ill and died. So, of course, now fingers are being pointed directly at Vladimir Putin by leaders in the West, including Joe Biden, although he was a little more diplomatic about it, but other leaders coming out and saying, hey, this is Putin's doing. This is, they view it as an assassination. I don't know how you prove that, but that's what they're saying. On the flip side of that, those who are of the other, on the other side of the political aisle, in the Putin camp, they're saying that Navalny was just a product, a creation of the CIA, and have accused the United States of meddling in Russian affairs. We ran a video yesterday showing Navalny meeting with a British intelligence officer, apparently, allegedly. That's who the person was, and they were talking about how much money the Navalny's political party or movement might need to gain traction. It sounded like the money might be used for, well, it's alleged that he was talking about money to fund a color revolution, which is essentially a coup brought on by protests. Kind of like what you're seeing right there in the streets of The Hague. Kind of like what you're seeing in many Western countries. Kind of like what we saw in 2014 in the Maidan in Ukraine, where Russia says that that was a color revolution choreographed by the United States and the CIA. Mass protests. If you look at the other side, well, they're saying that it was protests, not a color revolution. The NATO, U.S. perspective on what happened in Ukraine in 2014, completely opposite, saying that what happened there was just protests put down by the former president of Ukraine, who ended up fleeing after, I think, about 20 people were shot and killed. And then who was responsible for all of those killings? Again, it depends on which side you listen to. If you listen to the Russian narrative, they'll tell you it was neo-Nazis. If you listen to the neo-Nazis that were in the crowd, I don't even know how I'm getting down this road. I wasn't really going to talk about this tonight, but I'll finish up. If you listen to the other side, they'll tell you that it was police directed by the fleeing then president, who was on his way out of the country because, well, it could be a coup, or it could be that the people had voted him, wanted him out. And they had this demonstration going on that was getting to the point where the government couldn't survive it. So he turned tail and ran, and with the shootings happening there, he sort of, the more force that was exerted, the more he lost control. So he left the country. Sound familiar? It sort of does to me. And in fact, today was the second anniversary of the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa. I should, yeah. Now, there was a bit of a crowd there, not huge. A handful? I don't know how many. Hard to count. I'll tell you what, I'm going to queue up some video of today's event in Ottawa on Parliament Hill, marking the second anniversary of the Freedom Convoy, and I shall return right after this.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now, at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Back, and we'll take you to Ottawa and show you a little video that was shot by Chris Dacey up there on Parliament Hill today at the second anniversary event marking the anniversary of the Freedom Convoy.
Anniversary, everybody.
Love you too. We love you.
I'm gonna need some help with this song. Like we're doing right now, we're all standing up. We still need more people to stand up. So if we could chant this together, hopefully people will get the message. In 3 seconds, I want you guys to say stand up. I'll say a line, and then you say stand up after that line, and we'll keep going that way. 3, 2, 1. If you're against segregation, against the government invasion, if you want liberation for our next generation, if you want to have peace, then if you think of all the treason. Stand up if you're against segregation. Stand up against the government invasion. Stand up if you want liberation. Stand up for our next generation. Stand up if you want to have peace. Stand up if you're tired of the media feeding all these lies and disguising what's really the truth. So all you say distracted with what's really happening. Love just he said love. Minus 30 degrees, but they didn't care about that. They're just following your orders like a mercenary does. All dressing for geeks, and grouping hammers and clubs. What the fuck? Stand up if you're against segregation. Stand up. Stand up if you want. I wanna hear you. For the good reason. Stand up for our nation of freedom. Stand up, cause if we don't, then we're all fucked. Our children and their children and children will be also.
Alright, so that was going on. You could get a sense of the size of the crowd there yourselves. I don't need to tell you what I'm seeing. Here's a little bit of Dacey himself in action at the anniversary Freedom Convoy March. Here we go.
Anniversary of the Freedom Convoy. The march is moving through downtown Ottawa, and it is blocks line behind me.
And there you go, Chris Dacey. Second anniversary of the Freedom Convoy. And speaking of Navalny, there were memorials set up in Moscow, I guess, to Navalny, because in the West, some people view him as a hero. In Russia, as a traitor, treasonous. Those are the charges, basically, that were leveled against him, and he was in jail potentially for a very long time. Now, there he was sitting in prison a month away from the election. Vladimir Putin, it looks like, is, going to cruise to re-election, no problem. And this was going on in Russia, so again, you can assess for yourselves. People saying mass arrests being made. People were, I guess, warned not to go out and participate in large demonstrations in memory or support of the causes, the political movement that Navalny stood for. And here's what was going on, I guess, on the streets.
Пресса.
Уважаемые граждане,
Собаку заберите.
Depends on your perspective, like arrested, political prisoner, traitor, treason. One man's
Пресса, пресса, пресса,
freedom fighter, another
пресса.
man's terrorist. I've said
Yes.
that before. I guess if you stand up to a government, if you oppose a powerful leader like Vladimir Putin or Justin Trudeau, you can get yourself into some hot water, some trouble. No question about it. Nikki Haley weighing in on this, Trump's opponent for the GOP nomination, very critical of Donald Trump for not speaking up on this issue. Strangely, again, silent on this. I don't think he's said anything about Navalny's death. Even to this point today, I don't think he's uttered a single syllable, one way or the other, on this. That in itself, I think, speaks to us. Let's listen to what Nikki Haley has to say. She obviously is, I would call her a hawk. Certainly not a dove. Doesn't feel moderate.
The problem is if someone is not there to rein him in, he gets out of control. Look at what he said about NATO. Think about the fact that he went and he said that if they didn't pull their weight, that they would, and then he would not defend them. But he took it a step further, Neil. He went and said that he would, if they didn't pull their weight, he would encourage Putin to invade them. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. Someone who wants to be president of the United States is siding with a thug who kills his political opponents. He's siding with a dictator who arrests American journalists and hold them hostage. He's siding with a man who has literally always wanted to defeat America. We can't have that. He put our allies in danger who stood with us at 9/11, and he put every military service member in danger when he did that. The problem is if someone is not...
Well, that's a perspective, but I don't think it's going over very well with the MAGA base or the GOP base at all. So I don't think that's resonating. It is somewhat strange, though, I have to admit, to see the how can I put this? The core of the Republican Party really being sort of pro-Putin. They're rooting for Putin. It really seems that way. And that includes Tucker Carlson, who went to Moscow, and he's been sending back hard-hitting journalism. He went to McDonald's, got a large fry and a couple of cheeseburgers, made a video, and it's gone viral. Investigative journalism. He flew to Moscow and went to McDonald's. That's okay. I mean, it's a legitimate story, and he's just offering up a comparison. And honestly, I think that's the stuff people are most interested in. We've talked about it here on this program too. I've talked to Kevin Michelizzi and John Mark Dugan. I'm like, what's it like over there now that you have the sanctions? Can you get Coke? It's like, well, we got this other stuff, and it's kind of like it's a knockoff cola, but it's pretty good. And that's what happened with Tucker Carlson, too. He went into McDonald's, and it's like, I can't remember the name of the place. It's not really McDonald's anymore, but it is McDonald's. And so essentially what they've done is they've continued to just manufacture the product. They rebrand it a bit, and I'm sure the food is coming from exactly the same processing facilities. Frozen, arrives, everything's the same as it was. It just has different packaging and a different sign out in front of the place. And so he ate his Siberian cheeseburger. I watched the video. I'm not going to run it. I'll probably get hit with a copyright strike if I do. But he's like, I shouldn't be eating this stuff, but I really like it. And it tastes just like an American cheeseburger. Yeah, because they've copied the recipe, the formula. They have the McDonald's. They know how to do it. It's the same supply chain. All the meat comes from Russia. They just kept on producing the same stuff. The French fries are the same. He had his large fry. He taste tested them. Yep, tastes just like the fries back home. $7 and change, I guess it came to, for his order. Over here, I think during our price comparison the other night, the total came to, for a meal like that, it would have been around $14 Canadian. So that would have been $7 US in his conversion. So probably about, I don't know, $10, $50, $11 US. But then when we looked at the wages were considerably less. In Canada, for instance, minimum wage here is about $16.55 an hour, I think, depending on the province you're in. On average, $16.55 per hour for minimum wage Canadian. Over in Russia, about $7 and change. Equivalent after conversion. And so in the end, standard of living, I don't know. I'm seeing other reports, other estimations saying that the average wage, like not the minimum wage, the average wage, the average Russian, and I don't know if this is true. I saw reports of this, and I'd have to verify this. This didn't seem to. I don't know. 12% of what an American would make. 12%. But then, of course, you're paying a lot less, and then you also have to factor in. And we weren't able to do that in a really accurate way here the other night. But you'd also have to factor in things like tax rates, sales taxes, income taxes, how much money, how much spending power really do people have at the end of it. It's not really sufficient. The methodology is flawed when Tucker Carlson just walks into a Russian restaurant and says, this meal costs $7.15 or whatever it was. No, you have to look at how much people make, how much they're taxed, what their real buying power is. Is there sales tax on it? Is it 5%, 15%? In Canada, where I live, it's a 13% combined provincial federal sales tax on just about everything you buy. So you have to take that right off the top, right? So suddenly that changes the picture quite a bit, doesn't it? When you tack on a 13% tax, sales tax, then you have to factor in income taxes. And so really, what's the actual take-home pay? Well, according to the report that I saw, 12% of what the average American would make. But when you look around, you talk to people, it seems like the standard of living is comparable to what we have in Canada or the U.S., depending on where you live. And I'm sure that that's the case in Russia, too. Depends on what city you go to, what community. If you go to more remote areas, the standard of living, depending on how you calculate it, could be lower because you're further away from a city and there are less employment opportunities, less money flowing, but you probably have more living space. So I don't know. I think it's all relative and what people prefer in the end. And it just seems to me, from looking at the two countries as much as has been possible from afar, and from looking at these reports, I think it's comparable between the two countries. Honestly, you could make arguments one way or another, and I'm open to listening and learning and even changing my views if there's more information that comes forward. Vladimir Zelensky went to Munich, to the Munich Security Conference, and he had some pretty harsh words for Vladimir Putin. Threatened him. And he also begged for more weapons. Not surprising. We'll dig into that when we come back on the other side of this.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program For your mind.
Feel the vibrations. Our quest continues. The truth is out there. We are Mavericks.
So before we get to Vladimir Zelensky at the Munich Security Conference, we have to acknowledge that tonight Avdiivka has fallen for the Ukrainians. Russia has taken that community, made a gain there, a win, with Ukrainian forces withdrawing. Here's video from Avdiivka.
Тебя, конечно, сниму. Вот БТР, где меня накрыла птичка, прям возле него. Хорошо промазал. Попало вверх, а то уже тоже был бы 200. Так что живем мы весело. Серега, он по траншеи, я рядом. Идем за продуктами. Трупы увидишь, кричи. Вон наш танк стоит, тоже подбитый, сука. Все раздолбили. От деревьев, видишь, ничего не осталось. Тут прикопаны уже трупы эти. Все раздолбили нахуй.
This video that I'm showing you because some of this I'm getting on the fly tonight. A lot of it. I can't show you that. It's way too graphic. And this appears to be pro-Russian aerial footage. I'll show you this, where they are saying they are running Ukrainian forces out of Avdiivka right here. Shot from the screen of a video monitor. You can see those heat signatures on the video screen. Apparently those are Ukrainian forces, soldiers, retreating. And aerial bombardment targeted, going after them. And civilians fleeing Avdiivka as well. As the Ukrainians.
Мама, ты просто не видишь этого ужаса. Тихо! Тихо! Нет, это другая собака. Так, тут разбито все. Нет. Это другая собака. Тихо.
Нет. Wow. It's just war. I don't care which side you're on. You know, people are just suffering. The devastation. And honestly, it didn't have to happen. Now it is happening, though. And here's the Russian flag rising in Avdiivka. aerial shot. Up the flagpole it goes. And this is old-fashioned information warfare. This is a Russian tank moving into the area as the forces finally take control. And there's a loudspeaker mounted to the tank blaring the message, "There is no point in resisting. Your fathers and grandfathers didn't fight for this. And didn't fight for the power of neo-Nazis in Ukraine," is what the messaging is. Now I don't speak the language, but that is the translation that is being offered for us.
Ваши отцы и деды не для того сражались с фашистами, защищали нашу общую родину, чтобы сегодня неонацисты захватили власть на Украине. Вы давали присягу на верность украинскому народу, а не пронацистской антинародной хунте. Не исполняйте ее преступные приказы. Приказываю вам незамедлительно сложить оружие. Те военнослужащие украинской армии, которые выполнят это требование, могут беспрепятственно покинуть зону боевых действий и вернуться домой к своим семьям. Вся ответственность за возможные провокации будет целиком и полностью на совести правящего на Украине режима. Каждый из вас может закончить эту войну. Каждый из вас.
So while all that is going on, Vladimir Zelensky goes to the Munich Security Conference. And while there, he begged for more weapons. He says that Ukraine needs to end, well, the Allies, he says, need to end the artificial arms shortage that Ukraine is dealing with. He says that Ukraine can, he's still saying Ukraine can win the war as long as the West provides the funding and the weapons, the resources to get the job done. He says Avdiivka is actually proof of that, because he says that they could have held the line there and made gains if they'd had sufficient resources. And like the convoy, the Freedom Convoy, the conflict in Ukraine is now nearly at its second-year anniversary. We're getting reports that Ukraine is suffering from serious shortages of ammunition, and that is one of the reasons the Russians were able to make that gain in Avdiivka. And the funding, of course, the military aid has been delayed for months in Congress coming in. And as I've been saying for quite a while, you know, I think that the part of the war here is an information war. It might be the most important aspect of it. And I think that Russia is waging an information warfare campaign in order to convince people that the war is not worthwhile, that it's not going well, and to undermine support for ongoing funding for the war. Now, whether that's right or wrong, I'm not trying to judge one way or the other with this particular commentary. I'm offering up an analysis, an observation, and I think it's, personally, I think I'm spot on. I think I'm right. And I don't think it should surprise anybody that we're seeing that kind of effort, because if Russia can undermine support for the war effort and end the funding, they win the conflict. And as you're seeing here right now, they didn't have sufficient resources. The funding, the weapons have been delayed by months. It seems to have had a serious impact on what happened in Avdiivka. And tonight, the Ukrainian troops are retreating. Is that because they don't have the manpower? I'm not so sure. Is it because they don't have enough munitions? It appears so. So that's a major factor. And yet, I don't think it's over. I don't think it's over by a long shot. They've retreated from this location, but we also saw that the Ukrainians sank that Russian landing ship. They haven't given up there. And if you go back and if you dig into this and you look, a lot of ships have gone to the bottom on both sides, a lot more than people know. In fact, the Russian fleet apparently the Russian Navy has lost 20% of its vessels. So that's a pretty heavy toll on Russia. And also from, where I sit, my own personal take on this is that the predictions, the analysis we're getting from the pundits, not accurate, mostly propaganda. The war is not over. It's going to drag on. The funding is going to come forth. More funding will flow. More weapons will go to Ukraine. That will prolong things even more. And I don't think either side is doing that great. I think from everything I'm seeing, it's largely a stalemate with Ukraine now being pushed back in this conflict, but they sank that ship. They got a PR win there. It's a back and forth, and I think it's more of a meat grinder than anybody realizes. And I think Ukraine does still have troops, and I think Ukraine does have resources, and I think we're being fed a lot of propaganda, and I think that Russia is doing an excellent job of winning the information war. And I think that the Republicans are largely tired of war, and I think that they are on Putin's side in many respects, and I think they would like to end the funding. And I don't think they care if it helps Russia. And I think that from everything I'm seeing, man, they seem to be on side with that. And even Donald Trump doesn't want the funding to continue. You can be the judge, man, like who's on whose side and who's doing what. It's pretty clear to me. But is that to say that these Republicans are treasonous or traitors? Maybe not. Because they don't want to approve the funding, and then they tied the funding conditionally to securing the U.S.-Mexico border. We've seen that standoff down in Texas, and strangely, we haven't heard a whole lot about that in the last week or so. After such fanfare and talk about a pending civil war, perhaps, things like that. Very volatile. A lot of politics being played, man, and there's a lot of propaganda. And you know the reason I think Russia might not be doing quite as well as some would like us to believe? It's because Putin has been talking about peace. He's welcoming peace talks. Come to the table. Let's negotiate. Makes it sound like he's calling for that from a position of strength. But the more I analyze it, the more I look at it, I think he wants to talk peace because it's been a meat grinder on his side too. And I think he probably has achieved pretty much what he wants. And he'd like it to end now. So he'd like to bring the West through Ukraine to the negotiating table and end this thing to keep what he has. And the West probably would be wise to take him up on the offer and sit down and negotiate a settlement so that the bloodshed ends. Because I don't think he's going to give up what he has gained. I think he'll throw whatever he has at it to keep what he has. But I don't think I don't get the sense that he wants to continue in any further. And he probably realizes that that would be a fool's errand, because if he does gain more ground, he has to control it afterward. And I don't think he wants the whole country anyway. So he's trying to bring, the other side to the table. But at the same time, I think he's in a weaker position than most of us are being told. This war is costing Russia quite a bit. It's gone on a long time, much longer than anybody ever said, anticipated that it was going to last. If you listen to those experts, it was supposed to be over very quickly in Russia's favor, right? And it just hasn't worked out that way. It's dragged on now for 2 years. And with more funding just on the horizon, I think that's the other reason Putin wants peace talks now. That's why he's talking about it. He knows if another 60 billion from the US flows in, and then there's more money after that as well, and the way this is being designed, if the funding is approved, it actually spills over into the next administration, potentially tying the hands of whoever might be the president. So if Trump is president, the way that this is being rolled out, approving the funding, it'd be sort of like pre-approved, and if the next president tries to block it, that could result again in some sort of an impeachment process at that point. I think that's the way the Democrats are trying to structure this, because they're afraid that Trump is going to get in and then cut the funding to Ukraine, and they don't want that to happen. And that's part of the whole political battle that we're seeing roll out. So here's Zelensky in Munich today begging for more money and weapons, saying it's the Western alliance, the NATO alliance, that has created an artificial shortage of weapons and resources.
We can get our land back, and Putin can lose. And this has already happened more than once on the battlefield. Our actions are limited only by the sufficiency and length of the range of our strengths. But what does not depend on us? And Avdiivka situation proves this exactly. Dear friends, unfortunately, keeping Ukraine in the artificial deficit of weapons, particularly in deficit of artillery and long-range capabilities, allows Putin to adapt to the current intensity of the war. This self-weakening of democracy over time undermines our joint results.
Vladimir Zelensky at the Munich Security Conference. He also actually seemed to threaten Vladimir Putin. Zelensky has made a couple of speeches, a couple of appearances at the conference, but again, today, here he is. And yeah, it sounds like he's saying, you're going to be held accountable, Vladimir. It's only a matter of time. You're going to be executed here, you're going to be executed there. Here we go.
Путіна. Він має лише дві опції попереду. Бути на лаві підсудних у Гаазі, або бути убитим одним з його поплічників, які зараз вбивають для нього. Де повинна завершитися Путіна, кар'єра Путіна? Він має лише дві опції.
That's what he's saying. He's saying that Putin, he's saying, you only have two options: be in the dock at The Hague, or be killed by one of your own henchmen who are now killing for you, making a reference to the death of Alexei Navalny. So the struggle continues. The thing is, like, yeah, this is not over, not by a long shot. Little gain here, little lost there, gain back here, gain back there. Ukraine is just I think, going into a defensive posture now, waiting for that additional funding. If it's approved, and it appears it probably will be, let's face it. Once the politics plays out, the money will flow again. And then they'll get a recharge on the Ukrainian side, and you're going to see the meat grinder kick into high gear again. You mark my words. The killing's going to continue.
Exile. The Knights of Malta. Maverick News. Join us. The world is watching.
Yeah, and I can tell you, too, that I'm seeing here on the home front more and more and more and more and more intolerance and extremism and loose talk and hate and prejudice, division. And that was on full display in Nashville, Tennessee today, where this neo-Nazi group, they're called the Blood Tribe. We've seen them in places like Florida before. I'm not that familiar with this particular group, but they were in Nashville today, decked out in their red shirts, black pants, and their faces and heads covered, marching through the streets with their swastika flag.
Ashamed of? What are you ashamed of? Is that the best you got? Best you got? Best you got? Show me your fucking faces! Where's your face? Where's your face? Show me your face. I don't even know who you are. This is my face.
Your people poop in the
Let's
street.
fucking go.
Your people poop in the street.
You don't know my
Your
people.
poop in the street.
You don't know my people.
street.
You don't know my people.
Oh, I do. It's out India, bro. Y'all shit in the street, bro. You're shit. You poop in the
Oh,
street.
you don't know that?
Oh, I do.
Where the fuck am I from?
Because you have shit on your skin.
You guys,
Your
where's your
skin.
faces? Where's your show me your faces? Cowards! Cowards! All of you! Fucking cowards! Show me your fucking faces! Where's your face, you fucking cowards? Show me your face! Show me your faces, you fucking cowards! All of you! Fucking cowards! Fucking cowards! Fucking cowards! Fucking cowards!
Don't want to be seen. Don't want anybody to know who they are.
Fucking cowards! Fucking cowards!
And that went on for a few blocks. That's on full display. You can see the symbols. You can see the arms outstretched. But you know, when it comes to that kind of thinking, that kind of ideology, I think it's spread these days in ways that are just not that obvious. And I think, unfortunately, a growing number of people are out there carrying around the same emotions that fueled that and the same kinds of thoughts without even knowing that that's what they're thinking or feeling. And that scares me.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, just dipping into the chat here. I haven't really been looking in there. Just say hello to people. Hello, Cindy and Alicia and Michael. Hello, Joe Brandon. And Glitch. How's everybody doing tonight? Steve Harvey. Hello. And Yvonne. Unverified Bear. Howdy, everybody. That's in the, yeah, Jay Thomas says, Rick is very dramatic. Sometimes, I suppose. Howdy, Unverified Bear. Glitch says, he got a, yeah, he got the autographed Batman card. Cool. Yeah. Actually, I have one left. A Batmobile. So if anybody buys, well, if you donate $60 or more, I will send you one of these here shirts with a Maverick logo embroidered on it. Or you can have a Maverick News hoodie or sweatshirt if we have any left in stock. Hoodie for sure. I think we've got hoodies. Yeah, we should. I don't know if we've got sweatshirts or not. Anyway, hoodie or a shirt with the embroidered logo. And I will include the bonus Batmobile and autograph it if you want me to autograph it. Happy to do that. Just tell me when you place the order what size of shirt you want. And I'll put the banner up here so that you can see where to do that. You can donate at freedomreporters.com. That's the easiest place to do it. Some people do it through Maverick donations. Just make sure you put a comment in there telling me what size shirt you want, and I'll be happy to send it along. Or at freedomreporters.com. That's the best place to do it. You can always email me too. Go to the website at mavericknews.ca, and you can just click on the contact page and send me a message. If you need to contact me that way, might be a little easier than remembering this. That's the email address, maverickmultimedia@mail.com. You can message me there. And yeah, last Batmobile. I'll send that along as a bonus. I was able to snag a few of those, so sharing them out there with some people. I love Batmobiles. I just got a thing for Batmobiles. They're all pretty cool. So we've got that going on. And now I've forgotten what I was going to talk about. Oh, let me go over to the other Rumble channel and see who's watching over there. Again, I don't get to look in the chat too much because I'm too busy producing and thinking and talking and trying to say something intelligent while I do all this other stuff on the fly. Dame Pam! Hello. BDS. Johnny's over there. Hello, John. I hope everybody's being kind in the chat tonight. To everybody. Spread some love in there, guys, okay? Let's keep it positive. Hello, Raising Wolves. Shauna Vision. Hello, Shauna Vision. And Anasty's in there. Jeremiah Bullfrog. Hello, 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 everybody. And Amazing Faces says, yes, they're being very kind in there tonight, and that's good. That's what I like to hear. Hello, Lindy. All right, back to this stuff. So, there's weird stuff going on out there, man. Like, really weird stuff. Weird, weird, weird. Okay, so flying has become something of an adventure, I guess. And I'm not talking about on private jets like, you know, the world's elite fly on. Private jets, and they go to Davos or the, you know, this conference or that climate change summit on their private jet. No, I'm not talking about that. And I'm not talking about Justin Trudeau taking off to go to his $80,000 a week vacations that he gets for free because he's just staying at a friend's place. No, I'm talking about, you know, commercial airlines, peasant air. It's getting so bad. Well, Justin Trudeau is flying around eating caviar. Other, you know, the poor peasants, us, we're being bombarded midair with maggots. Literally. Here, check it out. Delta flight had to turn around after maggots rained down on passengers. True story. I guess somebody had some rotting fish. They put it in an overhead compartment, and there were maggots all over the fish, and they were headed to Detroit from Amsterdam earlier this week, and the maggots started to crawl out, and they were falling down on the passengers in the cabin, so the plane had to turn around. I just get the heebie-jeebies when I get around maggots. I can't stand them. I can't stand maggots. But that's not the only thing. Okay, that's pretty gross. Like, if maggots were raining down on me in the cabin of an airplane, I might be tempted to just open the door and jump out. Well, that's what somebody, an 18-year-old, tried to do on a WestJet flight. And this is what I mean by weird, right? This is weird. Another one. Some young guy tried to open a door on a WestJet flight from Vancouver to Toronto, and it was diverted to Winnipeg because this young guy, Flight 710, tries to open the door mid-flight. You know, way up there. Pressurized cabin. So fortunately, the doors can't open. They're not, you know, they're locked. So he couldn't do it. So they do a detour, make an emergency landing in Winnipeg, and this 18-year-old, whose name we do not have, from Victoria, BC, was arrested and has been charged with endangering an aircraft under the Aeronautics Act. He's been released. He's going to go to court for the next week or two. But this is not the first time in the last few weeks. Like, I have to wonder why. It doesn't tell us in the stories. We don't have the information, and they let the guy go again. What is going on? Why are we seeing so much of this right now? It just seems like there's and maybe we're just getting, there's more attention focused on these kinds of incidents. But I think there are more. There seems to be more of them, and I don't understand why we're getting, a series of them. It doesn't seem natural. And I've been, saying for a while, it's like there's some wacky psychological thing going on. And I think the internet's involved. And that other fella, the pilot who was in the cabin but wasn't actually flying, this goes back, what, about 6 or 8 weeks ago? And he had taken magic mushrooms the night before and then was just riding in the cockpit with the other pilots because he was just flying to go from one destination to another, I guess. But then he reached up and tried to shut off the engines because he was hallucinating, he says. I don't know. And now that's probably cost him his career. He probably will not be allowed to fly again, but there's just weird stuff going on. And it was only about a week ago there was another incident where somebody tried to open the door of an airplane. And then there was that other incident where the cabin door did fly off. I think that was that an Alaskan Airlines aircraft? I think so. And then we found out after that there were bolts missing from it. And there was an investigation into that. And now that's sort of been memory hold. People have sort of forgotten about it. But there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 incidents that I can think of just off the top of my head. And I think there have been more as well. It's like something really weird is going on because something weird is going on. Isn't it weird? I think so. Something ain't right. The whole world is kind of gone mad. I think we're on a steep descent. Morally, mentally. And when I talk about moral, I mean we're back to capital punishment. And there's an Alabama lawsuit now that alleges the very first nitrogen execution, which was performed in that state, was a botched human experiment. So this is out of Montgomery, Alabama, where a death row inmate has now filed a lawsuit. It challenges the constitutionality of nitrogen gas executions, arguing that the first person in the United States that was put to death by the method shook violently for several minutes in a human experiment that officials botched miserably. Quote, a human experiment that officials botched miserably. We reported on this when the execution was about to take place and the day of. I did acknowledge it, told you about it. So this lawsuit has been filed in federal court in Alabama, and it alleges that the January execution of Kenneth Eugene Smith by nitrogen gas was torturous and cannot be allowed to be repeated. So this lawsuit goes on and has descriptions from witnesses that say Smith shook and convulsed, and that is in contradiction to the state's promises to federal judges. They assured them that nitrogen would provide a quick and humane death, but this lawsuit suggests otherwise. Quote, the results of the first human experiment are now in, and they demonstrate that nitrogen gas asphyxiation is neither quick nor painless, but agonizing and painful. That from attorney Bernard E. Harcourt. That's what he wrote in the lawsuit. And so, yeah, Alabama last month became the first state to use nitrogen gas to put an inmate to death. It is authorized for use in 3 states, but Alabama is the only one so far to actually use it. So the way they do it is they put a respirator face mask on. I guess it's the kind of mask that you would normally use in an industrial setting. And then they administer the nitrogen gas that way. And it was strapped to the inmate's face on his head, and then pure nitrogen gas is pumped in. And then the person dies from lack of oxygen. And I can't imagine that would be painless. Your body deprived of oxygen, that's got to I don't know, you're conscious during that. That doesn't seem right. I don't know. Carbon monoxide poisoning, I think, would be less painful than that. That also deprives the body of oxygen, but it puts you to sleep during the process, right? Very dangerous. That's what can happen if you're in a car with a leaky exhaust, or in a house with improper ventilation from a furnace or something like that. So, I don't know where our society has come when we're sitting here talking about these things. I'm personally opposed to capital punishment for a variety of reasons. Opinions vary, but I think during tough times as well, people become angrier about things, less tolerant, and I think it's during these times you see a rise in crime too, and then people also want what they think is a more robust deterrent to crime, and then you see more support for things like capital punishment in response to rising crime. And you're seeing a lot more crime on the streets and across the countries, Canada and the US, no doubt about it. And you're seeing that crime rates, crime control, the legal system, that's a major plank in the Conservative platform heading into the next election in Canada. So, something to think about. All right, it is now 7:14. Let me take another quick break here. We'll come back with more stuff on the other side of this.
Hello, world. Are you awake? Uniting humankind by liberating millions of minds at a time. Maverick News. The world is watching.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, there was also this huge house explosion. Again, it seemed kind of weird. This was in Sterling, Virginia. And I'll just show you the video. This is just a devastating blast. I'm sure that most of you probably have seen some of this by now, but I thought we would acknowledge this tonight. Here it is here. Look at the damage, the devastation here. Yeah, there were fire crews inside. This house exploded Friday night. Fire crews inside checking for that gas leak, and it left one firefighter dead, 13 others injured, including 11 first responders. 2 civilians hospitalized as well. The deceased firefighter has been identified as 45-year-old Trevor Brown, He had been with the Sterling Volunteer Fire Department and had been affiliated with Loudoun County Fire and Rescue since 2016. I have a picture of him here that I'll bring up in a moment. So they responded to this home around 7:40 p.m. Got a 911 call. Smell of gas coming from the residence. They thought it was propane related, according to the fire chief. When they arrived, they say they still don't have a complete cause confirmed yet. They entered the home with their protective equipment on, and then we had tragedy. They had to check for occupants, I guess. That was the procedure they were following. They wanted to make sure that everybody was out of the house. They wanted to try to control the leak, according to the chief, and then they got multiple maydays and calls for help coming from the wreckage. They went in to try and find the firefighters in the debris. And here's a photograph of the firefighter who was killed in the explosion. Trevor Brown. Another sad day. Okay. Let's take another short break now. I got to tell you, we're going to come back and go to the phones. At 9 o'clock, I'm going to be on with Lori Spencer on Strange Bedfellows and Tyler Nixon, who will be talking with us. We're going to have a conversation about Donald Trump's legal problems. As you know, he was in court this week, and a judge told Trump that he has to pay, I think it was a $355 million fine. That's a little more than your average traffic ticket. Also barred from conducting business in New York for 3 years. And his sons also prohibited from serving as officers on the board of any corporation or company in New York for 2 years. All that heading into this election season. Well, we're already into it, actually. Not heading into it. The election is sort of already underway, isn't it? I mean, yeah, technically Trump has to still secure the nomination, and so does Biden. But the race has begun. Stay with me. We'll be right back. We'll go to the phones.
Fighting the Great Reset by leading the Great Resistance. Maverick News. The antivirus programs for your mind. Fear not the storm, for truth is on our side. Maverick News. The world is watching. Hello, world. Are you awake? Uniting humankind by liberating millions of minds at a time. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, the phones are not going to work tonight because there simply isn't not enough quarters in the phone machine, frankly. So we're going to have to address that. And there just isn't any money in there. So no phone in show tonight. I'll have to figure out a way to get some money in that thing. And probably do it tomorrow night. So, got to recharge that. And I can't do that on the fly here. And there just ain't no money in the kitty right now. So, overnight. And that being said, that gets us to the bottom of the hour. And as I say, I'm gonna sign off. That'll give me some time to regroup and get ready for this other broadcast at 9 p.m. And it will be broadcasting here on the main Maverick channels. I'll set it up so that we can broadcast it out on the Maverick Rumble channels. Some weeks I can't do that because we go right up until the same time we end the one program and then start the other. So tonight I'll set it up so that you can watch it here if you want, or over on one of the other channels, on one of Lori's channels or whatever, any place you want to go. But we'll be broadcasting it across the Maverick News Network. So thank you guys for spending the night here, at least a slightly shorter broadcast evening with me. As always, a major privilege. Appreciate you guys every time that we're together. And I will be back at 9 p.m. with Strange Bedfellows, Tyler Nixon, talking about Donald Trump's legal problems. And I just have to find the right thing to click here to end this program. And there it is. I found it. And with that, I will catch you all on the flip side at 9 p.m. Eastern.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.